meal prepping thing really is an art and it takes time to learn. But have you thought about mini meal prepping? I am going to show you how to make a big pot of chicken chili with at least 3 different ways that you can eat it so you're not eating the same thing day after day after day. This also comes together very quickly. It's a one-pot meal, freezes really well, and it tastes great. So come on in and I'll show you how. Hi friend, come on in. I am making chicken chili today and I start off by softening my onion in a little bit of neutral oil. I have diced my onion. It's not minced, but it is finer dice. If you have bell pepper, that is a perfect addition to this chicken chili. My onions have had about 5 minutes to soften. I am going to push them off to the side and get my chicken in here. If you are using pre-cooked shredded chicken or pre-cooked diced chicken, you don't have to add that right now. While my chicken is going, I am going to start adding some spices. I am adding about a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin. I added about 1/8 of a teaspoon of some ground cilantro. I am going to add probably about 1/4 to 1/2 a teaspoon of oregano. I'm going to crush that up. Probably got half of it on my stove. I'm going to put in a little bit of salt and pepper. This is obviously to taste, so put a little bit in now and then adjust it later. And for a touch of heat, I am going to add a little bit of chili flake. So pinch, 1/8 of a teaspoon. It really depends on how spicy you want it. You could also add chili powder or chipotle powder or Tabasco if you want to use that. If you just want to keep this relatively mild, add the spice as needed. I'm going to get this chicken flipped over. I do want to look for a little bit of browning, but I definitely want to get those spices down into the heat and the oil because that will help open up the flavors a little bit more. If you want to make this dish faster, obviously the shredded pre-cooked chicken or diced pre-cooked chicken will go a long way to speeding this up. If instead of putting in onions, you put in a jar of salsa, that will cover your onions, your peppers, some of your spices, and it covers part of your tomato base. Another way to speed this up, it's going to be kind of slow cooker style, would be to almost throw everything in the pan at the same time. I would soften my onions first and then throw in everything else. Your raw chicken, leave it whole, just as a chunk of chicken breast or chicken thigh, whatever meat you're using. Throw in your tomatoes, throw in your spices, throw everything in, and just simmer it covered. And then when it's done, or when you're ready to eat, just pull your chicken out, shred it up, and throw it all back in, and it's good to go. I used to make it that way all the time. I prefer using either the pre-cooked shredded or raw diced. I just find that the texture is slightly better, but if you're in a hurry and you want fast food, that's about as fast as you can get. I am throwing in my bell pepper at this point. I have a little bit of frozen bell pepper. If you have fresh bell pepper, add it now and just give it a quick cook. It is time to build the sauce. This looks pretty good. I am going to add 28 ounces of tomatoes. These are regular dice. You could use petite dice or you could use whole if you want. And you could just kind of cut them up or puree them. Depending on how well you cooked your chicken and how small you diced it will depend on how long you need to simmer this. I am going to probably give it at least 10 to 20 minutes of simmer time just to cook down the tomatoes a little bit. It's just going to be a matter of how much time you have before you want to eat your food. I have frozen corn here. I'm going to add about 1/2 cup or so. This is the time to add frozen corn. If you're adding canned corn or canned beans, add them towards the end, just long enough to heat them through, but not really cook them into a paste. When I can, I do want to give this a taste and adjust the spices. But this will need time to simmer down and reduce a little bit. Plus the tomatoes will release some of their liquid, and it will get a little bit soupier before it kind of gets a little thicker again. It doesn't take long to pull it together. What takes the longer part is how long you want to simmer it for. I'm going to get this simmering.
A few moments later.
This has had a chance to simmer. I am going to go ahead and add some tomato paste. The tomato paste is a way to cheat the system and get that long simmer time without the long simmer time. This will really help bring it together. It helps give it that flavor of long simmered tomatoes, and it's going to bring it together. Right now, it's not really cohesive. All the pieces are just kind of floating separately in a loose, watery broth. So the tomato paste will really help bring it together. If you want this to be thinner after you have added the tomato paste, go ahead and add water or broth. That will bring it to your desired consistency. I am going to add a small splash of water just because I want to rinse the jar out. I am also going to add in a jar of pinto beans. I really like pinto beans. I use pinto beans for just about everything, including my baked beans. I do not like kidney beans or red beans, so I don't cook with them. But use the beans that you like. At this point, I have it all stirred up. It's all come together. I want to taste it. I am going to give it some more salt because I think it definitely needs more salt. It's a little on the bland side. I am going to give it some more cumin. Now, obviously, if I add a little more cumin at the beginning, it will have a chance to bloom in the heat. But if you want to make sure the flavor's on point, you kind of have to test it at the end and then just change what needs to be fixed. Added a little bit more pepper, and this does not have any spice level at all for me. I'm not a spice head, but I can handle some spice. That pinch of chili flake that I put in earlier, it did not really add a lot of heat to this. If I want more heat, at this point, I want to start adding like a chili powder or a chipotle powder because the flakes need time to rehydrate. I'm just going to add a sprinkle of the chili powder and see how that does. To give it another taste, make sure I'm there. It's definitely a lot closer. But at this point, just keep tasting it and spicing it up until you hit the point where it tastes the way you want it. I'm going to add a little bit of smoked paprika as well, just to give it a little bit of a smoky flavor. This is optional. You don't have to add it. But don't add too much because a little bit goes a long way, I find. There we go. That's chicken chili. The longer you simmer it, the richer the flavor will be. But this meal can come together really fast, especially if you're going to use salsa. I am going to get this dished up. So meal one is obviously just enjoy the chicken chili the way it is. You can eat it in a bowl with whatever you like on top. We normally just put some cheese on it and call it done. The next meal can also be chili served on rice. Those are basically two different ways to eat it. When I was growing up, we used to eat our chili on rice because rice is a meal stretcher. It makes a meal go a lot further with toast, buttered toast. It was so good. And I don't know why it just hit the spot, but it really did. It's like a comfort food with the warm toast with the butter all melted into it and the rice. It was just a really good dish. The rice just adds a little something to make it a little bit different. The next meal, make nachos. Put some more cheese on top. You can put in some jalapeno slices if you want. There's lots of different ways to sort of jazz it up, and it doesn't require a lot of extra work. Spread it on a sheet pan, put it in your oven on broil, keep a close watch on it. You can even put it in the microwave if you really wanted to. The last one would be putting it on fries and having like chili fries. So those are sort of the ways that I know how to serve this up, and it would be a way to take one dish and make at least 3 different meals out of it and not have to eat the same thing over and over and over again. You can scale this up and make as much as you want, or you can actually downsize this. Use less chicken, only use 1 can of tomatoes. This is a really economical, multi-purpose dish, and it's a great way to do mini meal preps. I now have 5 meals I can eat across the week. I'll try to make some nachos if I got a little bit left. It's a great way to use up a small amount of chicken chili. This is how we do mini meal preps, where I make a bigger pot of something and I repurpose it across the week. And then we have different mini meals out of the same pot. We really like our chili on the thick side, so I have it thicker. But if you prefer a thinner chili, just go ahead and add more broth. This is a really nice, great dish to have on those cold winter days, but it's even just a great dish to have on those busy days where you want something fast. I sometimes put my yogurt on this as a sour cream substitute, so if you want to go check that video out, I have it linked here. So I hope you give it a try, and thanks for watching.